Did you know that the quietest person in a group chat might be the one who's most deeply engaged? It's not just about being shy or disinterested. There's a lot more going on beneath the surface. Psychology reveals that these quiet individuals often possess unique traits that make them invaluable to the conversation. But here's where it gets controversial. While some might see their silence as disengagement, it's actually a sign of thoughtfulness, self-control, and emotional intelligence. Let's dive into the 8 unique traits that quiet group chat members often exhibit. Being quiet in a group chat often isn't about having nothing to say. It's about taking in more than they give out. These individuals are highly observant, reading every message, noticing patterns in tone, and picking up on subtleties that others might miss. They clock who's stressed, who's excited, and who's hinting at something they aren't saying outright. For example, in travel groups, the quiet person might say almost nothing for weeks, then drop a single, thoughtful comment that perfectly sums up the group's mood. This isn't luck. It's pattern recognition at work. As psychologist Carl Jung put it, in all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. Observant people see that order before they speak. And because they're less distracted by their own need to respond, they're better at spotting what's unsaid between the lines. Do you ever get the sense that some people treat messaging like a reflex? They type before thinking, just to fill the space. Quiet group chat members often do the opposite. They're deliberate with their words and don't feel the need to respond unless they're adding value. If the conversation is flowing just fine without their input, they're content to let it. This aligns with research on the need for cognition, a well-established psychological trait describing how some people enjoy engaging in effortful thinking and processing information deeply before they weigh in. Individuals high in need for cognition are more likely to send thoughtful messages rather than quick, reactive ones. And they tend to elaborate more fully on the content they engage with. I've noticed this in creative collaboration groups. The loudest voices often dominate the brainstorming phase, but the real breakthroughs sometimes come from the person who's been silent for hours, until they chime in with a fully formed, game-changing idea. Not every conversation is meant to be joined, and quiet people know it. I remember being in a community chat where debates about politics would spiral for hours. The quietest members simply didn't engage. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't want to get sucked into an argument that went nowhere. This is a form of boundary setting. Instead of feeling pressure to comment on everything, they protect their mental space. They decide where their energy goes, and they're not afraid to let certain topics pass by without their input. In psychology, this is linked to self-regulation, the ability to control one's impulses, emotions, and attention. It's the digital version of politely excusing yourself from a loud party. And honestly, it's a skill more people could use. Group chats can sometimes turn into little arenas for attention. The louder personalities post memes, send gifs, and keep the spotlight on themselves. The quiet ones, they don't need that validation. As noted by psychologist Susan Cain, author of Quiet, introverted individuals often draw energy from internal reflection rather than external interaction. They're perfectly fine letting others own the conversation. This doesn't mean they're disengaged. It means they're not measuring their worth by how much they're seen or heard. And in a culture that often equates visibility with value, that's a rare kind of confidence. I've been in group chats where a single person dominates the feed. Yet when a real issue comes up, a friend in trouble, a sudden crisis, it's the quieter members who step up with steady, thoughtful guidance. This trait is easy to overlook in a digital setting because listening looks like, well, nothing. But just as in real-life conversations, active listening in group chats means paying attention to what's being said, understanding it, and sometimes following up privately if it matters. I've mentioned this before, but one of the most underrated social skills is making people feel truly heard. Group chat silence doesn't always mean someone is ignoring you. It can mean they're processing and remembering. Often, these are the people who will reference something you said weeks later, proving they were paying attention all along. And because they've been absorbing the full picture, their responses tend to be more thoughtful and relevant when they do speak up. Here's the thing. Group chats can get messy. Misunderstandings, sarcasm that doesn't land, endless back and forth arguments. Quiet members instinctively step around that quicksand. They know the written word is easy to misinterpret, and they'd rather not risk being dragged into an emotional storm. It's a form of emotional intelligence. They're aware that once something is typed out, it can't be unsent. Not really, even with the delete feature. They also know that online arguments have a way of snowballing, drawing in people who weren't even involved in the first place. This doesn't mean they're passive. It means they're strategic. They understand the cost of emotional energy and choose not to spend it on things that don't matter in the long run. For some people, group conversations feel like skimming the surface, fun but shallow. Quiet chat members often prefer direct, one-on-one exchanges where they can dive deeper. They might DM someone from the group to have a more meaningful discussion rather than post a public reply. When I was on the photography project abroad, I noticed one teammate almost never posted in the shared chat, but every so often he'd message me privately about gear settings or locations. That's where the real connection happened, away from the noise of the group thread. Psychologists link this to a preference for high-quality interactions over high-quantity ones. Instead of juggling dozens of shallow connections, they nurture a smaller circle of deeper, more genuine relationships. Not everyone thinks out loud, or in this case, types out loud. Quiet group chat members often process information in their heads before deciding what, if anything, to share. This slower pace isn't hesitation, it's depth. Cognitive psychology calls this reflective thinking, and it's linked to better decision-making. By not rushing to reply, they reduce the risk of saying something reactive or irrelevant. In a way, they're practicing a kind of digital mindfulness, pausing before responding. And in a fast-scroll world where speed is often valued over thoughtfulness, that's a strength worth protecting. I've had friends who rarely speak up in group chats, but when they do, it's something no one else has considered. They've been turning the topic over in their minds, seeing it from angles others have missed. And when they finally weigh in, it changes the direction of the conversation entirely. The bottom line is that silence in a group chat isn't always a sign of disengagement. More often, it's a reflection of traits like thoughtfulness, self-control, and emotional intelligence. If you're the quiet one, you're probably noticing more than you realize. And if you're not, maybe the next time you wonder why someone's quiet, you'll see it for what it is. Not absence, but a different way of being present. And this is the part most people miss. The quiet ones are often the ones who are truly present, even if they aren't speaking up. So, what do you think? Do you see the value in quiet group chat members? Or do you believe their silence is a sign of disengagement? Let's discuss in the comments.